I would like to now officially actually begin the session 2 for the day. We have already taken Jigna ma'am's presentation in the first session. So the 1:35 slot that was supposed to be for the second presentation is preponed and it is delivered. Now we'll begin with having our session chair on board with us, architect Sonia Gupta. And she's an architect engaged in teaching and voluntary work. Professor Gupta has been educated as Jadavpur University, Kolkata, and Lund University, Sweden, having also been active in professional practice in the offices of DS Architects and later Professor and Principal of Amity School of Architecture and Planning, Amity University, Kolkata. She is now a professor at Voxon School of Architecture and Planning, Telangana. Through Center for Built Environment, a knowledge-based non-profit professional body in Kolkata, she has sustained her interest in housing issues, rainwater harvesting, and sanitation for the urban poor. She has made a number of presentations and conferences, both in India and abroad, and is also an active member of the Indian Institute of Architects, West Bengal chapter. She is a Rotarian and currently Secretary of Council of Green and Eco-Friendly Movement, the Associated Chambers of Commerce of India, GM ASSOCHAM state chapter. Sorry, yeah. So I welcome you, ma'am, on the program of Platform of Our Society, and over to you, the next session.
Yes, thank you so much, Samhita. Just a little information. I have recently been promoted to the position of Dean of the School of Architecture and Planning. So I would just like to say that, because my introduction obviously wouldn't say that. So thank you. And yes, I did join in a little earlier, but I just heard you saying that Jigna's presentation is already done, Dr. Professor Jigna Desai. So, but we will go according to schedule. I'm sure we will start with Joanna Kosek. Am I correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, great. So yes, a very warm welcome to everyone present here at this very August gathering. I'm literally warm because I'm at the moment in a very, very warm place. So yes, and it's a nice, wonderful afternoon to talk about what we had, to continue talking about what we began this morning. And without wasting anybody's time, I'd like to begin with the program. The first speaker is Joanna Kosek. Joanna, are you on board? Is she there?
Yes, I am.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. So I'll just take a quick minute to introduce you, and then it will be over to you. Joanna is the joint head of Pictorial Art Conservation in the Department of Collection Care at the British Museum. She specialized in art on paper conservation at Camberwell College of Arts, London, after reading English at Maria Sklodowska-Curie University, Lublin, Poland. Joanna began her career in the British Museum in 1989 as a conservator of prints, drawings, and watercolors, and has managed the B.M. Hirayama studio for the conservation of Asian painting since 2005. In 1994, she was part of the team of conservators working at the Victoria Memorial, Kolkata, supported by the Calcutta Century Trust. I'm from Kolkata, so that is especially heartwarming for me, Joanna. She has engaged in teaching, publishing, and lecturing on paper conservation, including in India, China, and South Korea. She's the author of Conservation Mounting for Prints and Drawings, and manual based on the current practice at the British Museum, London, co-author and joint editor of Art on Paper, Mounting and Housing for Storage and Display, and co-author of Paper and Water, a Guide for Conservators. We cannot wait anymore for you, Joanna. It's over to you.
Right. I have to cope with technology and connect to my, to share my PowerPoint with you. So let's have a look. I'm going to, okay. So,
yes, it should.
Right, now, so I'm going to, right. Oh, hang on. Now we have seen all my presentations. Sorry, no suspense. Right. Hello, and thank you for inviting me to this wonderful conference. I wish to start, and I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. I wish to dedicate this talk to the memory of Gillian Roy, my wonderful teacher and ex-British Museum boss. Gillian long outlived her husband, Nirmal Roy, from Kolkata, and who was once the mayor of Camden in London. Gillian taught at Camberwell College of Art, London University of the Arts, and was responsible for educating and inspiring generations of multinational paper conservators, many of whom subsequently took up important conservation roles all over the world. Sorry. So let me begin my talk. My talk today is about cultural awareness, education, and day-to-day work in paper conservation at the British Museum. It is my great pleasure to present it on International Museum Day. This year's theme is very close to my heart: to raise awareness about museums as an important means of cultural exchange, enrichment of cultures, and development of mutual understanding, cooperation, and peace amongst people. My conservation team and I, and indeed our whole museum, have been doing exactly that for as long as I remember. Let me explain what I mean. I'm a paper conservator and conservation manager, gratefully trained at Camberwell College in London. But I come from Poland, not far from the Ukrainian border, from a part of the world where heritage has been repeatedly destroyed whenever my country suffered from aggression and wars. And the current war just across the border sadly confirms how history repeats itself. And I'm currently in Lublin, in Poland, with my mum. I have worked at the British Museum now for over 3 decades of time, with the privilege of cooperating with a multicultural team of experts who care for truly amazing artwork, and I have never stopped being at awe of the power and beauty of human creation at its best. Since 2005, I have been responsible for Eastern art and paper conservation on paper and silk based at the Hirayama studio. This is a highly specialist studio, unparalleled outside Asia, which caters for the conservation and traditional mounting of East Asian scrolls, paintings, prints, and calligraphy from South and Southeast Asia and the Islamic world. This, of course, includes diverse pictorial artwork on paper and textiles from the Indian subcontinent. In my day-to-day duties, I work with a multicultural team of colleagues where personnel do naturally change, but in my time, we have had experts from China, Japan, and Korea, as well as Britain, Italy, and France, all trained and dedicated to specialist conservation work on Asian material. Working with a multicultural team means that we constantly learn from one another about different cultures and remain sensitive to and respectful of differences. I frequently call my team the United Nations, not without pride, I must admit. Conservation at the British Museum is part of the Department of Collection Care based at the World Conservation and Exhibition Centre, which opened in 2014. But the Hirayama studio remained in its 1994 historic space, originally built as a bank for local merchants. These are the modern buildings which house the Western art and paper conservation, which I will show you later. And this is the Hirayama studio. And I need to explain that Asian scroll mounting expertise was virtually inaccessible in Europe until 1970s, when the British Museum gradually built up its specialist facility for scroll mounting and brought in scroll mounters trained in China and Japan, and in recent years from Korea. The Hirayama studio had replaced an earlier smaller facility and was opened in 1994, thanks to the vision of the British Museum and Professor Ikuo Hirayama, an eminent Japanese artist and academic teacher who survived Hiroshima. Professor Hirayama was the studio main benefactor and passionately believed that care of Asian paintings outside Asia required specialist facilities, practitioners, and training. Our studio is equipped with Japanese and Chinese lacquer tables set on Japanese tatami mats, traditionally made of reed to help control humidity, with plenty of space to lay out log scrolls and huge paintings. The studio has all the necessary tools and materials needed to practice the traditional craft of scroll mounting in 3 distinct schools of tradition: Japanese, Chinese, and Korean. This heritage is centuries old and very well tested, and we strive to follow the traditions in their best schools, In fact, I feel that sometimes we are more conservative than practitioners back in East Asia. Apart from East Asian scrolls, our facilities are also ideal for conserving Indian and Islamic paintings. For example, certain Indian scrolls require the full length of the studio if they are to be unrolled. Colleagues in the studio undergo specialist training. Mrs. Chu, a Chinese master who had trained in Shanghai Museum, joined the museum in 1987 and became a generous teacher. She has trained 2 assistants, Carol and Valentina, who had already trained in London and in Florence. Both of them have also trained in Shanghai Museum. Kyoko is a senior Japanese scroll mounter, first trained in the Nara National Museum at one of the select studios, which are part of the Japanese Association for Conservation of National Treasures, with the license to work on objects designated as Japanese national treasures. Kyoko has trained Matthias, Sorbonne graduate, to be her assistant. Until last year, we also had Mi Jong, a Korean paintings expert, trained in Korea, France, as well as the Hirayama studio. All my colleagues share a sense of unique mission to maintain the ancient craft. We follow master-to-master training in scroll mounting, and we support staff professional development abroad and UK. The Hirayama studio are also experts in conserving Indian and Islamic paintings, but unlike East Asian scrolls, historical Indian paintings, on the whole, do not need traditional remounting. Instead, they require thorough knowledge of traditional painting craft, including pigments and dyes, pigment making, laminating paper supports, burnishing techniques, gilding, using shell or gold leaf. Indeed, knowledge of this fascinating ancient craft is fundamental, and we make sure we engage with Indian artists and expert educators, such as Anita Chowdhury, shown here, the London-based artist, half Indian and half British, who was herself trained from the age of 12 by Vedpal Sharma Banu in his famous Jaipur studio in the historic artisan quarters of Jaipur Maharajas. The techniques used in the conservation of Indian material borrow from our expertise from Asian paintings techniques, especially with painted layers. But today, we mostly apply modern paper conservation methods, such as consolidation, repair, and mounting in sunk mounts, which I'm going to show later. It is natural for us to consider education threefold: our staff training in traditional scroll mounting and painting techniques, and training we offer to students and professionals outside. as well as members of general public. As scroll mounting relies on apprenticeship, it is only available in a traditional studio setup and cannot be taught in a college. My department promotes conservation placements, and we advertise these on the British Museum website. Students can apply twice a year, and we select candidates based on agreed criteria following a friendly interview in an attempt to be as fair as one can be. Students are allocated a supervisor and receive an induction to their department, fire safety and general health and safety. They are allocated tasks that fit with the current program of the department and get acquainted with work in a large, busy museum. In my time, we have had several students and professionals from India. For example, Mr. Shubhi Day from Kolkata Victoria Memorial Hall became a good friend. He trained with us both in our Western paper and the Hirayama studio. And here are two current students learning about Buddhist paintings from Duhuang from Mrs. Chu. Conservators are sometimes asked to lecture and teach in training courses and accept visits from groups of students, and we willingly accommodate such requests. We also participate, we take visits to the studio, of course. We also participate in the successful international training program sponsored and run annually by the museum, whereby museum professionals, curators, registrars, educators from museums in different parts of the world come to the British Museum for an intense and stimulating program at our museum and partner regional organizations with strong community programs and with stronger relevance to their home museums and audiences. Through this international training program, the British Museum is committed to building a global network of colleagues crossing geographical and cultural boundaries. I think I mixed a couple of slides, but never mind. We like to organize masterclasses. Here you can see one within our Sumitomo project to conserve Japanese paintings in the British Museum collection with scroll mounters from the Association for Conservation of National Treasures in Japan, generously sponsored by the Sumitomo Foundation. For example, we hosted professional colleagues and students from the UK and abroad to listen to talks and to observe the lining of the largest painting in the Japanese collection, a 19th century copy of a mural, a painting from the Horuji temple in Nara. Some of our projects are designed to host symposia. An example of this was part of the Amur Pacific project to conserve Korean paintings in the British Museum, generously sponsored by Amur Pacific. This was a 5-year of fieldwork and research of the indigenous Korean mounting, silk making and dyeing, as well as conservation treatments, with visiting experts from Korea, which culminated in a successful online conference and publication of a book. With these and similar projects, which are demanding technically and showcase unique skill and objects, we try to make videos that can be posted on the BM website. Here is a selection on the screen. Of course, social media today are an amazing asset for museums and our profession to disseminate and promote conservation ideas. And this is what museums globally do now, and the British Museum does it on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and through these YouTube videos. This no doubt will increase in the future with the growing importance of AI. Let's talk about the collection we serve. So being culturally aware becomes second nature to anyone working with a collection that represents world cultures. I'm proud to say that the British Museum is an especially outward-looking organisation, custodians of an immense repository of World Heritage objects, and which our directors call Museum of the World for the World. The funding collection was put together by the Royal Physician, Sir Hans Sloane. His collection in the at the end of 17th, 18th century, beginning of the 18th century. This collection included a huge library with books and Western graphic art and Asian prints and paintings, and we have been acquiring such materials ever since. The British Museum holds in trust for the nation and the whole world a collection of art and antiquities from ancient and living cultures spanning 2 million years of human history. Conservation and care have, in fact, been written into original funding documents. Pictorial collections cover old and modern masters from the West and East, and exhibitions of all of them have been going on since the 19th century, as seen on the screen. Highlights include, above all, paintings such as the Ghazi Scroll, works by Rabindranath Tagore, the Buddhist Du Huang, banner paintings, or the Admonition Scrolls, and the painting of the Princess of Timor. Western material covers all important artists such as Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Rembrandt, on to Picasso, up to the 21st century names. In the Hirayama studio, we conserve paintings, prints, and calligraphy from East, South, and Southeast Asia, as well as the Middle East. And we always make every effort to research the objects, while we also have support. We're very lucky of our scientists and curators, and apply the best practice in Western conservation. To give you an example, objects we preserve range from Indian storytelling, scrolls, miniature paintings in loose sheets and albums, company school paintings and drawings, Pali manuscripts and paper sutras, Tibetan, Burmese and Nepalese tankas and time paintings, and those from Japan, China and Korea in scroll and screen format. In so large a collection, our conservators fortunately have the benefit of curatorial expertise in all aspects, with consultation about object condition and how best to approach treatment. Knowledge of background history is paramount. Typically, our objects have passed through many owners and collections and may have been remounted or restored many times in the past. This means that a given mounting or binding may have changed many times with current custodians, with different custodians and collections, and we look carefully for this evidence to provide more information for provenance and to inform treatment. So when taking decisions about how to store, treat, and display objects, we always discuss the evidence together with an experienced curator, and it is the curator who takes the final decision. Conservators, curators, and scientists learn equally from this experience respecting object history, traditional mounting, and means of storage and display. Curators respect conservators' technical and science-based judgment and advice to best preserve objects. Regarding our day-to-day work in a large organization, while our curators are responsible for scholarship and exhibitions, the Department of Collection Care and Conservation, together with Science Department, support the curatorial departments in condition assessment, scientific investigation of objects, preventive care, conservation treatments and mounting for national and international loans, and exhibitions and safe handling of for storage. Within the conservation group, we have 4 distinct sections. Right. this is organics material, studios, the ceramic, glass and metals, and the wall paintings and mosaics. Pictorial art conservation has 3 teams: Western art on paper, Eastern art on paper and silk, based in the Hirayama studio, and conservation mounting for flat objects. Our job in conservation is to deliver the museum annual plan agreed with curatorial and other departments in line with museum strategies. Much time is needed to assess object condition, especially for loans, collection surveys, and general advice. We work closely with museum collection managers who coordinate necessary documentation between conservation, the rest of the museum, and borrowing institution. In a large organization, this necessitates effective planning, strategies, protocols, standard and in-house training in health and safety and safe handling or packing of objects. With such a vast and significant graphic art collection, the museum needs its team of dedicated conservation mounters. Mounting in sunk mounts or passport tool of good quality mount board, seen here, was in fact developed in the British Museum in the 1850s. It has also been employed for flat or single sheet Asian art. Our largest project, which had brought together both Western and Eastern studio teams, has been recent conservation and mounting of Michelangelo's cartoon Epiphania, the largest surviving drawing by the European Renaissance master, currently on display to the public in the temporary exhibition. This was a triumph of cooperation requiring both Eastern and Western studio skills. On day-to-day basis, we provide work required for exhibitions, loans and safe storage, which I have mentioned. Here, again, some consultation with curators regarding them. This is one of the galleries, Sir Joseph Houghton Gallery of China, South and Southeast Asia, where we display graphic art and paintings from India. And I also want to say that our studio is quite unique, and my colleagues are regularly interviewed about their work by press and other media journalists, and this is just an example. And I want to say that for those outside the Hirayama studio, represents a miniature of East and Southeast Asian world, and it attracts constant attention from scholars, museum specialists, and even politicians and media people, as well as the eager to learn general public. At present, including our students, we represent 7 nationalities and share understanding of and respect for all cultures. The Hirayama studio embodies the British Museum mission. We look after our unique heritage and do our best to affect our changing world for the better. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joanna. I'm sure you have given us an introduction only, maybe the tip of the iceberg, where conservation mounting and housing for storage, treatments and preservation should be considered for prints and drawings, especially for Asian paintings. So we will look forward to more engaging with you. But now to move on to the next presenter, I think that would be Dr. Surya Kumar Pandey. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Hideshwari?
Sonia, would you like to open the house for one or two
Yes, right,
questions,
great.
which
So,
they might
yes.
have for Joanna?
For discussion already, or
Yeah,
would you
yeah.
like that to happen at the?
No,
Okay,
we can have
super.
it immediately.
All
yeah.
right, as you say, Hideshwari. So yes, shall we have some interaction? Yes, Joanna.
Yes, I will
Okay,
take any
great.
question. I can only say that I'm
All
happy to
right, all right. So
yes, and
okay,
I adore
all
and
right. Okay,
Questions?
super. So
Claudia?
can we have some responses, some short questions for Joanna? Yes. How are we doing this? Are we putting the questions in the chat box?
You can do that
Hideshwari?
also. You can do that also.
Okay. Either
Yeah.
that, or you can just maybe raise an arm and ask your question. There are that many people. That'll be really nice for the personal interaction.
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah. Actually,
Yeah,
I would like
and-
to
and
share
if-
that Joanna, when she
Actually,
was working
that'd
on
be
the
nice.
paper at Pictorial
Yes.
Memorial, I was there, and that was the tercentenary project where Kolkata had completed 3 centuries. It was
Correct.
founded by Job Charnock in 1690, and we had also set up the first city gallery of India, the Calcutta Gallery. So after that, the tercentenary project came up, wherein a number of conservators, restorers, oil and paper came in from England, and their work was, I think, carried on for a decade or so, isn't it, Joanna?
something like that. Yes, for a long time.
Yes.
For a
Yes.
decade and more. And most of the Victoria Memorial works, prints, drawings, oil paintings, especially the Daniels, the entire set of Daniels, it has the largest collection in the world. This is because thanks to Lord Curzon, whose idea, Victoria Memorial was, and he started collecting for it. They have worked on almost everything. And I think for the next 50 years, it doesn't need attention right now, isn't it? Except preservation, right?
But the museum has done a fantastic work, and yes, it's. I left my heart in the Victoria Memorial Hall in Calcutta, I have to say, and in India. So yes, you've done fantastic
Yeah,
work.
they've done fantastic work for a national museum under the Ministry of Culture.
Yes.
I was very fortunate in witnessing it. So I was very fortunate in meeting these professionals also from different areas of work. And I'm thankful, Joanna, for taking your time out and being with us today. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Back to you, Sonia.
Yes. Thank you, Hideshwari. Just wondering if there are any questions for Joanna. While we wait, yes. Is there any question? Dr. Finkel? No? All right. Okay. So while we're waiting for questions, if there would be any, I'm just I'm an architect, and I'm just kind of wondering about the because you talk so much about paper, and what about the corrosion that would happen with the ink, and how do we do that? Because as far as storage is concerned, that would definitely be one of the things to address. Am I correct?
Yes. So I think what you are referring probably to is the iron gall ink. Historically,
Yeah.
many inks, but in Asia, predominantly black soot ink, which is quite stable. But iron gall
Right.
ink was actually used to corrode paper to make the writing more stable in the sense that it couldn't be erased. However, the
Yes.
irons in iron gall ink do effectively corrode and destroy paper long term. There has been a major project which lasted very many years that has looked into this a lot of research all over the world actually started in Europe and in Americas. A lot of research into risk assessments, because if heritage is like that, we cannot do anything about it. We need to be rational how we approach both treatment but also preservation. So I have to say that dry and low temperature storage is the best, which is difficult to advise in India.
Indeed.
But at least we know that, and we know how to kind of mitigate problems. So there is a lot of preventive thinking and scientific thinking that goes into how to start, considering we have circumstance and temperature and humidity we have, what we can do to preserve such material. Another line of thought has been looking for chemical treatments, and such treatments have been developed and they are practiced. Especially, we don't really do it with prints and drawings because there is a bit. In libraries and archives, there's phytide treatment. It's basically washing out and converting ions to more stable complexes, but nothing is permanent. So and deacidification methods, mass deacidification, it's an approach that Indian National Library, for example, has been taken as well. And so there is there are a lot of treatments, but really it's sustainable management, which we know is the best.
Right. So there's delicate balance over there between preservation and having corrosion and protecting it. Yes. Thank you, Joanna.